Witness true greatness this Cheltenham with Sky Bet. Sky Bet have free bets every day and some huge boosts for you, so make sure you're getting involved. Check out today's Cheltenham offer below. Hit that link in the description. And of course, 18 plus, T&Cs apply. Be gamble aware. There's been some rumours surrounding Kobby Mainoo. Now, I don't know why these rumours are heating up so quickly, considering he's got 2 years left on his current deal, with United having an optional extra year on that. But obviously, we've heard in January that due to PSR reasons, Man United could be open to selling some academy players. And the news have kind of run with all this, and they've said he's set to reject a new contract at Man United and he plans to move abroad, etc., etc. Now, me personally, I don't think it will happen. I think he'll sign a new deal. And even if he didn't sign a new deal, I don't think we would sell him. But obviously, just be interested to get your boys' thoughts on this whole...
I think your optimism and your the way that you're projecting here is so wide of the mark, mate. It's littered with optimism, and I think there is a genuine opportunity for somebody to sign Kobby Mainoo and a genuine possibility that he could leave. He shouldn't. It's a disgrace if he does. The money that he wants, whilst it sounds like a fortune, and it is a fortune, and perhaps he's being a little bit lofty with his ambition.
What does he want, sorry, Royce?
About 170 grand a week. But the reason why, that sounds huge, doesn't it, for a man of his age?
I don't think it does.
Do you not?
No.
What I was going to justify it with is, you know, when you've got other players at the club, you know if the captain's on, what's the captain on, like 450?
No,
Bruno
will be on around 325.
Okay, so 350. So 350. 170 kind of sounds... They both start.
I think
One's a
Bruno's
captain,
the wrong example to use. I think when you look at Luke Shaw being on 250,000 a week, Mason Mount probably being on something similar.
Mason Mount's on 250, isn't he? 225?
You look at all those kind of players. I think Bruno Fernandes can probably justify.
But there's also been examples. There's also been exactly because Bruno Fernandes can absolutely justify being the top earner. And Kobby Mainoo, to his credit, he's not asking to be a top earner.
Yeah.
He's asking to be paid like a starter in proportion to...
Why hasn't that happened already?
Well, his contract that we agreed was about 4 or 5 years ago, and he was obviously quite new to the team at that point. He hadn't scored in a cup final. He hadn't had those,
this summer.
England international.
I don't think he was an England international at that point. So his contract at that time would have been reasonable. The reason I have optimism on this one is because I think if United were in a position where we had to sell someone for PSR reasons, I think you'd sell Garnacho before you'd sell Kobby Mainoo. And I also think because if he was to have intentions to leave, right, at any point in his career, which given the state of Man United at the moment, you wouldn't begrudge anyone, I don't think it'd be now. Like, I think he would stick around at least for the next contract. I just think it's contract negotiations combined with kind of just reports and people reporting.
Does he fit into Ruben Amorim's system?
Exactly.
Does he fit in? Because he's been playing false nine. And
mate, he's played in about 4 different positions. And you're absolutely right to ask that question, Booth, because if we believe Amorim, right, that the way that they need to operate in the summer is sell to buy, he needs to buy players because these players don't fit his system and he will not budge from his system. We can debate whether that's incorrect or correct. It's not really the point at the moment. If Manchester United need to sell to buy and the Manchester United manager has already come out and said, do you know what, we don't care about the Europa League. Doesn't matter whether we win it. You're like, hang on a minute, mate. If you win it, you guarantee 80 million quid.
He did say it would be big if we won it. I think he's just...
That's not the quote.
I've seen a couple of different quotes about it. There was one where he kind of went, winning Europa League doesn't change like the goals and the plans of the team, right? Which is kind of true.
It's not true. You'd become a Champions League team and you'd win.
He did in another interview say it's massively important.
Right, but he's trying to correct a massive mistake that he made then, because the fact that he did come out and almost dismiss the importance of the Europa League. Firstly, I think it's incredibly wrong to do that if you ignore Champions League qualification. But Manchester United are a club that are sacking people left, right and centre because of failings at the top. They're a club that apparently have sanctioned the use of sellotape that's not a joke. That's serious. As a club,
sanctioned the use of sellotape. What's the rest?
This isn't a joke. It sounds like a joke. You're using as a club. You're spending too much money on sellotape, and Jim Ratcliffe has. I'm not joking. I'm being really serious.
Get the blue tack in, man. You can reuse it.
You'll spend however much money.
White tack from Poundland. Blue tack's the official brand. It's way too expensive for Jim Ratcliffe.
I thought white tack, blue tack made by the same people.
Anyway,
guys are charlatans.
genuinely, he's saying that you're using too much blue tack. You've simultaneously got he's got a manager that has come out and said that the Europa League is irrelevant. Basically, is what he said. And whether you believe that to be true, I rate the Europa League so highly anyway, and it's European silverware. And I don't understand this mentality. But even if you don't recognise the supremacy of that tournament, it's 80 million quid minimum. Because you're in the Champions League.
That's a player.
80 million quid minimum.
The way you've talked about Amorim, and I agree with you, I think his energy at points hasn't been right. Obviously, Adam knows better than any of us, but I do look at him at some points. I don't think he's handled certain things in the media very well, in my honest opinion. Do you think Kobby Mainoo taps into some of that? Is he maybe not a fan of Amorim and his system as well? He's thinking, I can play in where I want to play in midfield for Atletico Madrid. I could play for AC Milan.
That's interesting.
Is that what he's thinking?
Because that's another thing about the system. That's another thing about winning the Europa League. You know, if he were to win the Europa League, suddenly the players that maybe have doubts about the system will go, hang on a minute. Your doubts. So at that point, right, if you did have doubts, but then you won a European trophy, you go, okay, I did have a doubt, but we've just won silverware. We've just had a great night in Bilbao. We've just qualified for the Champions League. I'm going to park my doubts.
But you know, on Kobby Mainoo, when you say he doesn't fit into the system, I think Kobby Mainoo's issues and the why he hasn't been selected so much this season has been more due to injury and kind of that reason, being unavailable, then not fitting into the system. And I think when he was tried in the front three, where I actually think can be his best position in the team, because you look at his best situations, his goal against Liverpool in the league, I think it was, his goal against Wolves in the league, his goal against City in the FA Cup final, it all come from him playing on the left-hand side of kind of like the final third of the pitch. So I think he does suit the system in playing in one of those forward roles. He played in one of those forward roles in Europe when we went away and won 2-0 and he scored in that game, and then he picked up an injury again, so he's been out of the team. So I actually think Kobby Mainoo would fit into the team, and I think Ruben Amorim would be...
Does he want to play that
would
high?
Be baffling. It would be baffling if he didn't kind of fancy a good, solid young player that's come through the academy. And like I said before, if we had to sell players for PSR issues, you've got Rashford potentially leaving, Garnacho's been linked with it. I think Kobbie would be the name that's lowest on the list. I just think this is down to just contract negotiations.
I think it would be a disgrace, and I do try and see football like bigger now than my tribal rivalry, right? I do think it would be a really sad day for Man United for Kobby Mainoo to be sold for profit.
Same.
Right. I think it would be in the way that I thought it was terrible when it happened with Conor Gallagher and when he tried to do it with Trevor Chalobah. I just think that kids being forced out of the clubs because of the PSR. Like, it's a huge flaw.
He's barely had a game for United. He's had a great career so far. Played for England, but he's not really done anything. He's still got so much to do.
It'd be awful if he's forced to leave. But I'd take him at
City. I'll tell you now, Guardiola would take him. Arteta would take him.
City wanted him throughout his academy career.
Arne Slot, if you asked Arne Slot, if you asked...
every club in world football.
I don't think there's a club...
Simeone would take him 100%.
I don't think there's a club that isn't really monitoring this. But I also think the way that Ineos are operating and the huge deficit that Manchester United are going to find themselves in financially, how can they possibly avoid having a conversation with someone offered 80 million quid?
How much is he worth?
80?
70.
How long would be left on the contract?
2 years?
Okay,
on this contract is probably worth less if you signed a bigger
So not as a player.
So two
as a
player, I think is worth 80 million plus.
Yeah, but in the context of his contract
so he's got 2 years, though, that is quite... That is
80. So
you've got to remember as well, for them to sell a player, and again, I'm having this conversation just for devil's advocate, I don't think he leaves, but for them to sell a player, they're going to need to receive an offer that they think is, daft to not accept. I don't think they accept an offer for 40,
what have you
50
seen
million.
I do admire your stance here, but I don't know what you've seen in Ineos to make you confident that a player like him...
I'm just using common sense, right? Or I'm just kind of...
But what have you seen in
what
Ineos
I consider to be common sense? When you look at the fact that Garnacho's someone that would be pure profit and has been linked with a move away, Rashford's out on loan, Villa have an option on him, and other people could come into the mix. Yeah. You've got Jadon Sancho out there, Anthony out there, Casemiro's potentially leaving, Lindelof's going on a free. I just think there's so many other players that are going to move on, and most of them are going to bring in a transfer fee that eventually is going to get to a point where this isn't even a conversation.
Do you think like someone like Amorim should not take the blame, but could be a finger pointed at him because of his system has actually devalued him?
No, because of what I said before. I think he works in the system.
He was actually a better player. But now he's in this system, it's making it look like...
But his availability has been an issue.
He's had injuries.
He's also played in so many positions, though. Amorim doesn't know how to play.
But I don't think he worked... No, but
played him in 4
You can say
different
Amorim doesn't know how to play him, or Amorim is trying to figure out the best position for him. And I don't think playing as one of the deeper two is his best position in this system.
But does he want to be in the 3? That's the question. Like, there's so much power with the individual.
It's not about whether he's in a 3 or a 4. It's whether he's in a position that's comfortable to him, innit? And I think playing.
But if you ask Phil Foden, do I want to be a winger? Like Phil Foden's made claims to Guardiola. I want to be in the midfield. We can debate if it's worked or not, but there's been a debate there. I don't know if Kobby Mainoo wants to.
Is there a
does he
world
want to
where
be in a 4-3-3?
a 3-4-3? It's something we haven't actually asked because my brain doesn't really work like this with Manchester United. Players don't want to leave Manchester United is the way that I feel about football. But I'm trying to redefine Man United and get with the modern version of the club. Adam, do you think there is a world where Kobby Mainoo has put in this big transfer demand? Because on some level, he's open to the idea of moving on.
I don't know. You can only ask him that. It would be surprising if he did.
Do you think that...
Because for years he's spoken about, like I said, City have been a team that have monitored him throughout his academic career for a long time.
If I was the sporting director, and he's 25 million quid, and just test the water, 25, 30. Why not?
He said constantly, like, United's his dream, innit? That's like when that's happened previously.
How much sellotape could they buy with 25 million quid?
It's quite a bit.
It will be interesting to see what happens because...
It's not sad. It's
a mess.
You look at it, we laugh. But
what was Conor Gallagher to Atletico? That was free.
50 odd.
50.
It was, remember, because they sold João Felix to give them the funds.
Yeah.
It's not like for like, but he's not worth more than Conor Gallagher.
I think he is.
He's 40 mil.
Just natural ability alone, he is.
I don't know if he is.
He's got a massive...
Conor Gallagher's more established than Kobby Mainoo. Different positions.
Kobby Mainoo's a better player than him, though.
Because of his age and what he's accomplished for Manchester United.
Don't know.
Like the FA Cup, obviously he's going to England. I'd say 70 million.
70?
Right. Yeah, if right now, with 2 years left on his contract,
He's had one good season.
Yeah, but
Conor Gallagher's playing for Simeone in the Champions League. And he went for 50.
Yeah, but he's a young prospect, and he's an English young prospect.
I like Kobby Mainoo, but he's not worth 70 million quid with that contract. If he's on a 5-year contract right now on 150 grand a week, he's worth that.
2 years is quite a long contract though to buy someone out of, isn't it?
Yeah.
But if
someone goes for 70 million for Manchester United right now,
football, you're 1 year away from that conversation.
Yeah, you're 1 year away from the conversation. Yeah.
Yeah, but we was gonna like.
If
we was going to give someone,
being smart,
they wanted 60 million, and that's like 6 months. That's a year. Someone like Kobby Mainoo, 2 years.
Kovacic went to City for 30 mil,
right? If not 30.
Yeah, exactly. So Kobby Mainoo is
it's a different.
Yeah, but he's a wonder kid. I'm saying, regardless, 80 million is like the starting bid, and I still think he will reject.
Is he a wonder kid?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Come on, he's tipped as a wonder kid now.
Just look what he's done in the first year of his career.
Wonder kid's a big.
His goals against Wolves, Liverpool.
Wayne Rooney's a wonder kid.
He scored in an FA Cup final.
Maybe not a wonder
Phil
kid,
Foden's a wonder kid.
What should we call it?
Kobby Mainoo is as natural a talent as...
Yeah.
They're different players, but I think they've got as much ceiling and talent as Phil Foden.
I
think he's an unbelievable player.
That's crazy.
They're different players.
It's a little bit.
Crazy.
But in terms of midfielders to come through,
Foden's playing the Champions League final, running the midfield.
Let's not get bogged down in that. It's quite a bit of an extreme example, but yeah, I know what you mean.
Pure natural ability.
Let's say James McAtee.
No one that good comes through an academy.
No.
In a midfield.
No way.
Yeah, it'd be very interesting to see. Isn't it a terrible statement though as to who Manchester United are now that we are even legitimately debating this?
That's crazy.
Yeah,
it's so sad.
This is going away everything that what your club stands for.
But I don't think it legitimately. I don't think it happens. I just think it's contract negotiations.
Yeah, let's say even if he doesn't go,
I would be massively concerned if it was.
It's a mess. It's a mess.
Yeah, he's the last person I expect you lot to sell.
Garnacho again. I wouldn't want to sell him, but like.
What's Harvey Elliott worth then?
Sometimes I see him and I just think, what's going on?
That's a good question.
Kobby Mainoo's better than Harvey Elliott.
No, he's not.
He is, bruv.
He's having a better season.
Seriously, Kobby Mainoo is ridiculous. Ridiculous.
It feels early. I think Kobby
Mainoo's at Liverpool, he starts over Harvey Elliott.
No, he doesn't.
I do find your...
He bossed him in midfield in the cup game and in the league game at Old Trafford.
Yeah, but
Harvey Elliott is a top quality player.
Yeah, Harvey, I rate Elliott.
They're different positions.
I rate Elliott very highly.
Anyway,
Elliott.